Greetings from Baku. My name is Michael Rahal, I'm an international master, and I'm bringing the best moments of round 2 of the World Cup. In this video, we're going to see the endgame of the round. Grischuk and Daneshvar played one of the most exciting tiebreaks I've witnessed in many years of tournament chess. And the match was decided in the last 3-2 game. But in one of the tiebreak games, Grischuk played, in my opinion, a very interesting and instructive ending. So I'm bringing this ending to you so you can see how Grischuk was able to win with very good technique, rook ending. In the position of the board, I was witnessing this position. I thought that Grischuk would capture the pawn on f6. It seemed to me that rook takes f6, rook takes d4, rook takes h6, king g7, rook takes h5. I thought this was the way to go. Grischuk obviously calculated a few more moves and probably stopped here, thinking that although he's better, it's unclear that he's going to win this position. And instead of that, he played a very interesting move, which is rook e7. Now, I want to highlight this idea because although it's not so good as capturing the pawn on f6, I think in practice it's the best move in the position, especially for a rapid game. Not only does he attack the pawn on b7 and leaves these two pawns weak so the king can end up capturing them, but he also locks in the black king on h8, which means that his opponent Daneshvar has less options of active play. This is a very important concept in rook endings. Keep the king of your opponent in a less active position. So Daneshvar played b6, protecting the pawn. Grischuk captured the pawn on a7 and started to activate his king. Now, if the black rook goes to the 7th file, hitting the pawn here, not only can we protect it, but also we now have full access to these squares here. And at some point, this king could be trapped in a mating network. So Daneshvar tried to activate his king. Grischuk carried to it on the attack, always keeping the black king cutting off. Rook to d2, rook a7 protecting the pawn, and rook a5. Now he's threatening to knock off these two pawns and go into a winning ending. And notice that at all times, the pawns on f6 and h5 are still unconnected and weak. That's why Grischuk didn't go for them at the beginning. Here, Daneshvar made a couple of mistakes. He possibly could have played this better, especially capturing the pawn here and situating the rook behind the pawn. His drawing chances are still optimum, although he would probably lose this endgame. But he played rook takes a2, and now the pawn is on the 4th rank instead of the 3rd, and nearer the king, which makes it much easier to push the pawn. Now Grischuk is going to win the endgame with excellent technique, always keeping his pieces active. He will have to end up losing this pawn, but as these pawns are blocked, it's not easy for black to win the 2 pawns and then push with this one down the board before this pawn gets to the end, which is what happened. And now a very important move, rook to d5. This is excellent play. He will cede this pawn here, but the king will not cross, and this pawn will get to the end. Of course, at some point, black would have to sacrifice his rook for the pawn, but as you will see, his pawns will be so far away, there will be no chance for him to get active counterplay. Already here, he could have promoted, but he preferred to capture this pawn, and Daneshvar resigned. This would be the nice variation, highlighting another interesting concept, which is that when the pawn has crossed the 5th rank and the king is behind, we always win with the technique of attacking the pawn and putting the rook behind. So very good technique from Grischuk. Although he was eliminated, he did showcase his skills here in endgame technique.